Blog Talk Radio.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order. The new world order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
How can I convince you that you're still here? You're turning your heart away from me each time that I draw near. You're introduced to me tonight, they blast away your fears. Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going to the Clay Dunkley show?
My message to those guys is they're listening this morning is go get a cup of coffee, maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same bottles, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. Well, it's just a show. How can I explain the thing that blinded by the light.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas. Catch the Free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overdone. I want to tear the moon down, the sky across the night.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamericans.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. I'm your host, I'm Clay Douglas, and, evidently my guest didn't show up today, and so we're just going to have to wing it. There are some stories that I think you should be aware of, and I will be looking for those. The guest that I was supposed to have on today was Cheryl Chumley. She was talking about how Orwell's nightmare is becoming our reality. Got a book out called Police State USA. Of course, she didn't, maybe I got the wrong phone numbers or something like that. She said that, somebody promoting her, doing her PR, said most people have heard it explained, if you place a frog in a pot of water and slowly boil it, that frog will happily swim in its personal little death trap. The incremental rise in temperatures deadens its senses, no pun intended, to what is really going on until it's far too late. By the time the frog realizes he is in danger, he is essentially cooked, and that's where the United States finds itself today. And supposedly why Police State USA by Cheryl K. Chumley is worth checking out. The problem with the American police state itself a very different animal than traditionally comes to mind when someone hears the term, is that it has come about slowly. chipping away at individual liberties. Tens of thousands of seemingly insignificant laws are passed, each one worded in a way that allows politicians and those in positions of power to filch just a wee bit of freedom here or there. Over time, these wee bits have added up, and we find ourselves now in a world where the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration is setting up roadblocks and pulling over random people for voluntary DNA samples that don't come across as voluntary to the individuals who are being ushered to the side of the interstate. Besides, it is even unlawful. Is it lawful for NHTSA officials to pull over Americans who have done absolutely nothing wrong? In the 2014, the answer appears to be, don't worry about it, just do what we say. Now, one of the many illustrative quotes in Police State USA come from Daniel Webster. Good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. It is hardly too strong to say that the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intention. There are men of all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to government. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be masters. Now, supposedly what Cheryl Chumley did in her book is the way she highlights many of the random stories that a person hears about on the radio and says, what, is that true? Into one place. She chronicles an example of local, state, and federal overreach to paint a picture of a nation that has long forgotten how important the right to be left alone really is. Most Americans aren't familiar with asset forfeiture laws, property seizures, or how it would affect them as law-abiding citizens. Some of these laws are seemingly written by men who view innocent until proven guilty as a quaint little phrase only fit for Hollywood movies. Likewise, many Americans don't consider the implications of having a president who says things like, I've got a pen and I've got a phone and I'm ready to use them. I'm not going to just sit around and wait for Congress to pass legislation. Checks and balances, laws, the legislative process, and the rule of law. Who needs all that when you've got the imperial presidency at your proposed disposal and an administrative state eager to do your bidding? Now, according to the guy that reviewed this, Douglas Ernst, former Army guy, says Chumley does an excellent job of detailing the current and future threats to our life, liberty, and property, but she does so in an approachable manner, whereas many journalists and D.C. politicians talk down to their audience. Ms. Chumley, a writer with the New Washington Times, delivers her information in a way that are reminiscent of conversations you might have with an intelligent and friendly neighbor. Unlike many other books that cover civil liberties infringement, Police State USA does a great job of compiling all those times when the pot of water had the temperature turned up just a notch before our so-called good masters slipped their hands behind her back. Many books focus solely on the hot-button issues like the Patriot Act, but Miss Chumley's book definitely runs the gamut to show readers just how insidious the web of our power-hungry masters can weave. As Americans, we are caught in a deadly trap of our own making. It's probably a worthwhile thing, and I guess this guy, Douglas Ernst, works with Cheryl. Too bad that the place couldn't get a phone number that actually worked, or return a phone number Too bad for that. Alright, where else are we now? I've told you that there is good news here. Bandit, stop it!
Better knock it off. Get up there and sharp. Okay.
I have been doing this for 25 years. I've been telling you exactly, that could have been my little bio or promo there. Could have done that. Could be me. I've been telling you about all of these little incidents from time to time. And it's, well, it's a shame. It's a shame that we haven't woken up before this. It's almost like we had to get it. It had to get so bad that we had to get President Barack Obama, a homosexual, dope smoking homosexual, in office, a Muslim, a Jew, posing as a Christian, before America started to wake up. Almost a shame. Maybe too late. Maybe too late. Now, one of my regulars here, Gordon Duff, says, sent me something, says he really unloaded in this recent interview on Veterans Today radio. And he's talking about the nuclear warheads that were used at 9/11. I think we maybe should listen to this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Veterans Today News Reports. I'm your host, Stu Webb, and today is June the 4th, 2014, and we're going to have an incredible program today. We're going to have a total exposure of the event of September the 11th, 2001.
Yeah, let me tell you that this is all included in my latest issue of the Free American, the June issue. We'll be finishing that off today or tomorrow. It'll be up for sale. Meanwhile, you need to make a donation. I've been bringing you this information on a steady basis. I referred to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning, and it was a nuclear attack on America. My films, True Face of FEMA, told you what happened in case of a nuclear attack, and of course they did that with the Patriot Act. Stu Webb ain't talking to you anymore, but too bad. Gordon Duff still is.
This has come forward. I have two special guests, and we're talking evidence, folks. We're not talking Budster land, guessing, so-called investigations. We're talking evidence. I have Gordon Duff, editor of Veterans Today, that is on with us. I have Professor James Fetzer. Both of them are the top experts in this, and evidence, as I said, has come forward. Are you on, Gordon?
Here at Auto Bank, we have over 100 quality pre-owned cars for under $10,000.
Didn't
435 Front Street, you can always bank on a great deal.
Are you on with me, Jim? Are we broadcasting here? I'm not sure whether we are or not, whether they have my guest hooked up. I'm assuming I'm still live. There's several stories people need to look at. They're on veterans today, and they're incredible. The evidence has been put out. 18 nuclear education. Education Undeniable Proof of 9/11 is a nuclear event by Gordon Duff. BT Nuclear Terrorism Educational Series, Nuclear Educational Series, Diamania Classified, BT Nuclear Education Series again, Constructing the Nuclear Child, doc submitted by Russian Intel, New Cancer from 9/11 revealed, which are over 70,000 people have cancer from this. Too classified to publish. Bush Nuclear Piracy Exposed. These are part of this series of articles. I see that they're still working on my guest. Are either one of you on with me, Jim Fetzer or Duff? Jim, are you on? Gordon, are you on with us?
Yeah, I'm actually on here. Let's see. Return to call in progress. Yeah, I've got one of these dishpan Samsung, Note 3 phones here, so I had to go through 10 or 11 screens just to find the call.
Well, I appreciate you being on with us today, and
we have Fetzer on with us.
I'm here, Gordon.
Oh, cool. So we're past whatever news is going on or whatever, and we're live going. And we're live right now, yes? Are we live?
We are live, Gordon. And,
okay.
I brought up the fact of you put out incredible evidence on 9/11, and I'm going to let you roll with it. I'm going to back to you.
Yeah, Jim, be patient with me here. Let me run for a bit because I just got off some material here, and what I'm trying to do is, and for heaven only knows, I think pretty much I'm assuming people know who I am, or think they know who I am, or if they think they know who I am, I may just finally end up telling them who I am, or worse yet, showing them. And that, if you think that's a threat, take it as a threat. Take it as a threat beyond anything you can deal with. I'm not an activist by any means. I'm out here as part of the military and intelligence community. We are not we're not here as press. We're not selling any books. I don't want any of your money. I represent some of the most powerful financial and military institutions in the world, working directly with the largest intelligence agencies in the world. We don't care. Now, something we've gone through in the last couple of days. Today, most of us in this country that get email, were hit with an Alex Jones InfoWar piece saying that Edward Snowden, and I will simply tell you he's the Mossad CIA hangout sitting in Moscow, that Snowden had mentioned 9/11, and of course, in this case, his boyish little attempt to sell the last 30 seconds of the 9/11 cover-up to MSNBC, or NBC in his case. I think Microsoft has bailed on them, which even NBC refused to carry. So Alex Jones is trying to reprocess this, that a caveman somewhere shut down NORAD's satellite systems, or Raytheon Lockheed J-Lin's system, that shut down all of our air defenses, which, by the way, for the most part, for the coastal areas inland, 600 miles in the U.S., are handled by Aegis ships. We have 37 of them. They protect the coastal United States, as they protect, by the way, the coast of Israel. Aegis are systems that, and this is one of the things in selling the 9/11 idiocy that the nano thermite sniffers push and whatever else, Well, NORAD's radar doesn't see below 6,000 feet. The only reason we have radar protection around the United States, which is primarily synthetic aperture look-down radar to see through clouds, everything, even ground, is because it protects against low-flying intrusion bombers. And since 1982, there has been no strategy. That's several years ago, and some of you guys weren't even born then. Since 1982, the nuclear superpowers, United States and others, have all moved to low-flying aircraft that fly at 300 feet and below, or cruise missiles, as the primary deterrent, because increasingly ICBMs are subject to shoot down. An Aegis ship can shoot down an ICBM. An S-300, 400 Russian air defense system can shoot down ICBMs like nothing. Have been able to do it for years and years. It's all down to low penetration, all off submarines, diesel submarines. It's all about getting in close, dropping them off planes and coming in. It's all coming in 15 feet off the ground, like the missile that hit the Pentagon, 15 feet off the ground. Not a blade of grass disturbed, not a seat, not a napkin, no underwear, no old lady's toes anywhere. The insanity. Well, taking the story back here, Snowden and Jones, the last 5 minutes. What we're dealing with right now in the world is we have a serious meltdown where anybody that's got their head screwed on right is beginning to see the signs of August 1914, a world war. The United States and Western Europe has pretty much taken on, admittedly, that Al-Qaeda is now and has always been an independent military organization run by the West, run by the CIA and Mossad and others. The roots of Al-Qaeda, as we know it, had always been the stay-behind networks of Gladio, had always come from the Chechen rebels that the CIA had trained, had always been within the Mujahideen/Taliban, had always been tied to Colonel Timothy Osman, the Bush family associate, also known as Osama bin Laden, the bin Laden family being prime business partners of the Bush family and the Carlyle Group, which is the neocon defense monolith that controls much of what goes on in the world. What we have had happen over the last couple of weeks has been, and this is interestingly enough, we've had devastating material out there. That material has validated the work of a number of people who were very right all along. One who hides in the shadows is Michael Blacksford, whose company has manufactured nuclear carrier equipment and has followed the trail of nuclear weapons through the arms industry of Britain and illegal transit, moving across Britain in trucks, moving in and out of Farnborough RAF base, Fairford, and others. We have tracked the theft of 350 W-54 warheads. These are nuclear artillery warheads. This has been confirmed with U.S. Army military. These are nuclear intelligence officers who are familiar with the weapons, who have handled these weapons, who know all of the design criteria of these weapons, how to set them up, how to alter their output. These weapons that the U.S. has been sending for destruction to the Pentex plant in Amarillo, Texas for years and years and years. They've been going right out the back door. We have UN arms proliferation, nuclear proliferation investigators who have sent us photographs of their recovery efforts of nuclear pits and nuclear weapons that were lost in the crash of a Shackleton bomber in North Africa. We have the crews recovering the weapons. I have the photos sitting here. I'm going to publish them. We have another story here, and some of these are developing, and the rationale here for this is that within the groups, the 9/11 truth groups, the activist groups that the rest of us are running away from, we found more than reasonable evidence that a significant number of people who some have done valuable work, have always been or are now assets totally under the control of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and intelligence agencies, particularly the Mossad, and it makes up most. Everyone who mentions nanothermite is an intelligence agent. There is no such thing. Never been made. Didn't exist. I was reading a Dr. Stephen Jones piece that the FBI, and we tracked down the website, paid to have put on the internet, supposedly debunking the work of Dr. Fetzer, who is our other guest on here. I had physicists look at his work, and Jones is supposedly a physicist. They said it was utterly insane. We're getting intelligence dumps out of French, Russian, and other agencies. The UN non-proliferation groups are dumping their files on us now because they are, I won't say they're in a panic. They're angry over Syria. They're angry over Ukraine, the insanity of the U.S. and Ukraine. The U.S. has lost its mind, totally. They're angry about the U.S. insanity in trying to push a war in the Far East between Japan and China, pretending that China is trying to take over the world when they're trying to extend air defenses 150 miles off their own shore. We're 7,000 miles away. All entirely made up. China has absolutely no capability of projecting military force. They have no troops overseas. The U.S. at last count had overt and clandestine forces in 150 countries. The Chinese don't have any anywhere. None. They don't have troops on anybody else's territory. We're making it all up. All of it. Then the anti-Russian propaganda, the insane propaganda the press is putting out. And the parallels in the press that are disturbing me is that the fanatic Mossad Zionist-controlled press, and just call it what it is. Live with it. Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, Daily Beast, New York Times, Washington Post. I may have said that twice. We're saying twice. They are bombarding us with stories when read and looked for sources. They are fabricating one story after another, totally fabricating much of the news that we're seeing.
This is exactly why I started the Free American, because we had to go into Waco. Those were child molesters. We had to do this. We had to do that. Come on, folks. They're setting us up. They're trying to demonize Putin. They're trying to demonize China and what may be happening here. And I'm going to cover that a little bit further on into the show after Gordon puts all this information out about 9/11. Nuclear attack on the United States, but the nuclear attack came from Israel. Didn't come from Russia. Didn't come from China. Now, what's happened is that China and Russia they're waking up. They are waking up. They've been under communism for 100 years. They have had the communists, who are Jewish, Rabbi Ted. They are Jewish. They've declared war on America the same way they declared war on Germany back in Well, I got 30s and the 19. They declared war on Germany, not just Hitler. I don't know if Hitler had even come into it. It's a war, and now it's a war against the United States, and they're trying to egg us on, just the way they did England, just the way they did Russia, to go against Germany because Germany was kicking them out. And maybe the Russians, Putin certainly, has kicked them out. It's now they're trying to bring us into another world war, and I'm going to share with you here, when Gordon gets through here, I'm going to tell you about the Ukraine. You won't, it is simply mind-blowing, and the information is happening. One of the things I'm going to tell you about is a leaked report that Israel acknowledges Jews are in fact Khazars, and there's a secret plan for reverse migration to the Ukraine, because the Ukraine is where the Khazars came from. Now, Gordon, take it back.
We're at a point of threat that has finally reached intelligence agencies. And toward this point, it's now time to kick to the curb all of the amateurs. We mentioned Blatchford, we'll mention Don Fox, Ed Ward, Jeff Prager, who would race across the street before finding the guilty. We'll mention Michael Shrimpton, the man who discovered the nuclear threat against the Olympics, but refused to name those responsible because he's in denial about it, and they sold him down the river, and he's facing some nasty consequences for outing something. Dmitry Kolozov, a man who has been largely right all along. Me for knowing everybody, I pretty much know everyone. More of this story will come out here in the next few minutes from Jim Fetzer. Now, I have sent, over the last couple of hours, I will tell you, to intelligence agencies in several countries, a request for more of their files, and I have been publishing their files and, frankly, editing things that I can't put out there. And, I've said this long before, that, and it's up to 40% of the material, we have to disguise, we have to go between the lines, because I'm certainly not going to put formulas out on hydrogen bomb lenses. As we're getting more information out of the nuclear explosions in the World Trade Center weeks ago, the story for those who could see it, and if you didn't see it, I'll just tell you that call me arrogant about this, I don't care. I'm only talking here to senior military personnel, diplomatic personnel, world leaders that I know and deal with. That's all I'm talking to. And if you're out there and you're understanding this, then you're part of the solution with us. And we're glad to have you on board. And if you don't understand any of this at all, it may be Stu's show, but please, I don't care. I don't want to hear from you. Don't care. Don't need your money. Don't care for your approval. Don't care if you hate me. Don't care if you love me. If you're an idiot, please hate me. Please. I just don't care. So we're done here. It's time for serious people to stand up and do something about saving what little we have left while we can. Admitting we don't have elections in the United States, we're the most corrupt country on earth, that while Oath Keepers runs around wanting to protect our weapons rights and sign up county sheriffs, well, these same county sheriffs, one after another, years and years ago, had to switch from their normal masters, the people who ran prostitutes and sold crack, who usually own the county sheriffs. They're now working for larger cartels. Law enforcement in this country has been utterly corrupt forever. Judges in this country have always worked for big business. It's now far worse. It's now multinational. In no way does any aspect of any level of government of the United States answer to any people of the United States in any way. Call it the disease of the party system or whatever. state governors, one after another, in this last election were bought by Sheldon Adelson and the Koch brothers. I have, you know, if you want to know if you've been really, really stupid, and please be offended by this, because stupid people deserve to be offended, global warming is real. The worst human beings on earth that I can name right off, I even like Sheldon Adelson, actually. He's a scoundrel, but he has guts. I respect that. The Koch brothers, who control the oil futures market, who are bleeding you to death every time you buy gas. You give them a gallon of, they personally make $1 a gallon. And they are, and everything you buy, and they are spending that money convincing you there's no such thing as global warming. And some of you just love to, you love to take that message because you think it's coming from somewhere magic. Well, you're buying disease. Everything you read on the internet, every email you open, you never check where it comes from. This is me talking down to people who, frankly, need to be talked down to because that's where you are. You're down. When you open an email and you send it around, or you send money to people, and you don't know who they are, you don't know that you're working for Wall Street, you don't know that you're working for organized crime, that they're smart enough that they know what to tell you because they know how weak you are and how you're looking to go after the Negro president or any easy target. They know this. Now, what we're asking for now is we're asking for the specific shipping routes on stolen nuclear weapons, and it is hundreds of them. We have published specific information on how pits have been remachined. I have published non-specific information on how these weapons were remanufactured, how the pits were remachined, and I have published the scientific documentation describing how and why it's to be done. And to anybody out there who knows the business, we have already proven the nuclear case for 9/11. We have proven who is involved: Bush, Mossad, and others. We have named operators in this, and others that are frankly working with us have come forward that were involved with the Bush family are now cooperating. We are told that at the heart of this is Victor Booth, the Lord of War. Anybody who remembers the movie with Nicolas Cage? Well, it wasn't about him selling tanks and guns to people. Nicolas Cage sold nuclear pits, and when he got picked up, the Israelis had to do this themselves. Now, we're following a confirmed story of the sinking of 2 Israeli submarines. We knew we had one, and that's the night of May 2nd, May 3rd, I believe 2:36 a.m. off Syria. We were told the Syrians did it. We are now confirmed that an Aegis ship of the United States Navy sunk an Israeli submarine. And well, I'm just reading this. I just read it, I'll pass it on, you take judgment. In retaliation for the USS Liberty. I'm asking for information. They're saying that the U.S. took down a second. The United States Navy unilaterally sunk a second Israeli submarine. That the Israelis changed serial numbers on subs, altered crew rosters. I'm reading it off an intelligence document right now. Ordered 2 submarines to replace it from Germany, and that they paid for those submarines by sending the Germans nuclear weapons. This is where this is going. And we are following, and we'll see how far we get. But we're unraveling all of it. And everyone's speaking any other way. I mean, any of the overt stories out there, Setzer and others put these to sleep long ago. The nuclear weapons used on the World Trade Center. Setzer had it, and we're finding out who had it right. So much was right with Kolozov. So much was right with Prager, who is, and no one's perfect here. Neutron bombs. But we are told these are neutron bombs with a, it goes out here, with a 3% fission initiator. And if you've got the clearance for it, and I don't have the clearance to pass the document out, I can show you the lens design on it. I can show you what the shielding looked like on these weapons. I can tell you how they were made. These are very recent designs, remachined in Israel off the oblong pits of W-54 warheads, oversized pits that were deteriorated, and if I'm not a physicist, is Americanium or American? Americanium, I believe, is the material that the plutonium had degenerated into. We have the plans for how these were remachined, how they were built, and how these were turned into a near-pure fusion weapon, capable of creating, and we'll call it an unusual type of explosion that put out a tremendous amount of heat for a tiny fraction of a second, that dissolved, vaporized, not dustified, vaporized the steel on the upper floors of a couple of significant buildings. The story goes further. There were more things involved in demolition. We have signs of cut beams. We have incidents on the lower floors. We have confirmations of there being other types of fission-based weapons used within the bedrock that burned for months and months. Who would do that? Why would they do it? Well, in the year 2000, when the U.S. government was overthrown by the worldwide, let's call it the secret shadow government, Dr. Preston James, who gets it very, very right over and over and over again. If you don't know it, you're still eating and driving around and you think you're free. It's an illusion. When the Bush family put their claws into you, when you began opening emails, when you began watching Alex Jones or listening to him, when you began reading Dr. Stephen Jones, when you began reading about nano thermite, or reading the NIST, or worshiping John McCain, or ignoring the hundreds of billions of dollars of narcotics that the CIA has been pumping around the world, or the heinous and illegal acts of the United States government. And we are a reprehensible lot. This is a Marine telling me this. If you think things are okay and you like this, you're part of the problem. And it's not going to be solved in any election in this country. I'm not going to tell anyone anything to do. We don't have elections in this country. Mr. Fetzer, that's as long as I care to bang people in the head. Yep.
It's exactly what I've been telling you for 10 years, or more than that. That they have refined the art of slavery to the point that the slave don't know they're slaves. I'm not a slave. I can get in my pickup and go get a beer. Well, go get a beer. And this is why I have been demonized so much, because I put information out like this. Because Alex Jones won't talk to me. Alex Jones wouldn't help me. Alex Jones hoped I died. I would die in that hospital. He never told you they were keeping me in a hospital for 3 months, drugged into oblivion. Pump full of morphine, halcyon, Haldol, Valium. I've got the medical records here, folks. I can show you, and I've showed people. Here's my medical records, and I've had people, doctors, nurses, that know, say, wow, they tried to kill you. Yes, they tried to kill me. If I've been, they started out accusing me of being anti-government. If it's a communist government that we have here, yes, I'm definitely anti-government. When they tried to demonize me for starting the militias, by calling me armed and dangerous. I called them up and said, "You're damn right, I'm armed, and if you mess with my country or my people, my family, I'm definitely dangerous." And they did mess with my family, and they did mess with a lot of people that have been on my show. People like Roger Christie, who's still in prison, still trying to get out. No bond, again, for marijuana. Just the shades of deja vu. Well, Clay, we got you with this marijuana here in Texas. You know, we could get you 99 years. It's, things are changing. But let's go back to Don Fetcher and Gordon Duff here. Now, you're all right. Now, try to understand now. The whole war on terror is a war against anyone, anywhere in the world. Don't want to go along with one world banking, one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers. Patriot Act is brought Americans into it. In my film, True Face of FEMA, which I did 10 years ago, one of the other reasons they tried to kill me. We're in for a long war. It may go on longer than the Cold War, and the enemy's weak. The enemy doesn't have trains, planes, tanks, bombers. The enemy, they're talking about you, the American people.
It's having one of those days today.
Well, Gordon, you've been publishing so many important articles. I've been blown away. The one on the cancer deaths, you know, on the way in which the nuclear weapons were transferred by the Bush-Cheney administration to Israel.
Now, all of this is in the June issue of the Free American. Folks, I need your help to do this. Everybody needs to read this. Everybody needs to hear this show. Everybody. I'm almost glad my guest didn't show up today, didn't have the right phone numbers for her, because Gordon's doing a great job. And how many times have I had Gordon on?
The latest about nuclear education, EMPs and all that. I just think it's been a spectacular string for you, Gordon, and I got to say, I'm just tremendously impressed, and I'm sure everyone else.
I haven't done it. I haven't done any of this, Jim. Entirely. All I do is this. I'm CEO of a publicly traded multinational defense company with multi-billion-dollar cash and lines of credit. We work in intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, special operations. We operate satellite systems. We work around the world. We're fairly low key. We're very tightly. We're publicly traded, but we're closely held. So I'm not that accountable. I just got back from Africa not long ago, leading with military intelligence and political leaders there, and none of them there or in the Middle East want to hear any of this stuff out of the newspapers. If I tried passing on any of this narrative you'd hear from Mrs. Clinton or Kerry or certainly the neocon Israeli, God only knows what goes on, I'd be a laughing stock. We have developed a duality of information that's unbelievable. No one of any substance in the world, other than the most ignorant, and this is where the most ignorant people in the U.S. are. They work for the FBI, the CIA, and are in the U.S. government. People who are paid to be blind, who will sit there at the teat of organized crime. And where Stu, this is Stu's particular area, behind all of this, we find a very, very genuine Satanist conspiracy. It's absolutely real. Absolute. And I'm not a religious guy. I'm a total dyed-in-the-wool atheist, 100%. You don't get any more than I have. Fetzer and sat around the house and talked about this. You couldn't find a cross from a Noah in this place. Lots of books on religion. I'm a religious scholar. But we have a mass of people across Europe and the United States who have a fanatical belief in biblical prophecy and have decided that they're on the side of what they believe are the fallen angels, that I don't believe exist, kind of. Except I have people tell me that some of the stuff they're doing actually works. And I don't know what to say about that. You know, I know what people tell me, I know what I see. You know, and if I don't, I'm an intelligence officer. If I don't separate those things out, I'm not of any use to anyone. This is the problem I've always had with Dmitry Talazov, for those of you who know this. There's a wonderful interview on YouTube, despite the fact that I'm in it, with Dmitry Talazov done by Kevin Barrett and Gordon Duff. I suggest you pick that up. And Talazov, who I find him a wonderful person. But he doesn't separate what he knows from what people tell him. And that's something very different. We have very strict rules in intelligence about what represents proof. It's the same way it's supposed to be in court. Back when we used to have things like justice, back when we used to have rights. Now, there are strict rules about this. What I do with people at Veterans Day, which is now the largest news organization on this planet, pretty much everybody goes through intelligence training classes. They are taught to tell the difference. They are taught interrogation skills. They're taught how to understand psychological warfare, chaos theory, disinformation. Mr. Fetzer, how many hours do I have invested in you going through these things?
Oh, Gordon, well over 100, no doubt about it. Probably several.
But the point is to develop the quality of our collective work. Now today, I spent today sending you intelligence documents. How horrible were some of them?
Pretty serious stuff, Gordon.
And they don't come from internet people, do they?
Oh, no, they certainly don't.
Yeah. Now, simple for you guys out there, you know, and for and it's time we did some smacking down here. You know, if you don't have resources, and there are reasons that we have the trust that we have, because we've played it narrow. And absolutely, it's very simple right now. It's like I'm turning into Bush. You're either with us or against us. I don't care if you're against us. You know, Jim and I do fine. We're as happy as if we were in our right minds. You know, we travel where we want to. We live well. We do what we want to. We have a huge amount of support. We've got good families. We've got lots and lots of friends. And we have our integrity. What's also happened over a series of years is the world I live within. I live within a community made of senior intelligence agencies, including top-level people from the FSB, KGB, ISI, Central Intelligence Agency, MI5, MI6, other agencies around the world. These guys have been friends for a long time. We all stick together because we think our governments are all corrupt. We all like each other. You know what I'll add to that? Let me be quite honest. I have more than a couple of friends in the Mossad that I have great affection for, who I trust. And they're people of great charm and great, well, frankly, heart. You know, I have a lot of people, and this angers a lot of our people who see everything black and white. I have a lot of respect for an awful lot of Jewish people in Israel who don't do everything I want to, but do what they can, and many of them do much more than anyone guesses. And as far as blaming the Jews for everything that goes on, there's a reason I don't allow that at VT. And they, meaning the victimization people, hate that because VT is largely Jewish. A lot of Jews at VT. You know, it's as simple as that. And, well, in fact, we're totally multinational. But of the people I deal with, not that many of the people I deal with are white. You know, there ain't nothing right-wing or white supremacist about me. I am multicultural. I am highly progressive. I am very friendly toward the Jewish religion, Jewish people. I'm very Islam friendly. I have friends across Africa and elsewhere. Those people who are backers of white nationalism, like the Zondo family, I have tremendous respect for them as courageous people. And Cedric Tobin, I think, is a little crazy sometimes, but I have tremendous respect for his personal courage. People of courage and character. I don't care what your beliefs are. I can work with you if you have courage and character. And those of you who don't, at some point we're going to deal with you. And the we, you can only guess who the we is. The we is more than just a random group of friends out of the Pentagon and sitting around Tel Aviv in a military headquarters in Iran or Pakistan or Moscow or London, or it's more than that. It's a little more than that. And I'm the only one allowed to talk for whatever reason because, well, I can do this because I'm just not so vulnerable. You figure out why. Now, do people deserve the truth? You know, not everybody out there, and this is, you know, we're stepping into this area, not all of you out there have retained or developed the discernment, understanding, and emotional fortitude to be human beings. That's a problem. You know, there are so many of us here that have very diverse beliefs that supposedly believe a lot of different things. You can sit us all in a room. Now, you sit us in a room, most of the time at least I'll be able to go over and throw a chair at you or something. But for the most part, when we sit in a room and look at each other, we come to an understanding. And I don't care if it's a room full of Jews and Arabs or whatever, and I do that all the time, by the way. And we always work together. There's no question. People of good faith, of courage and heart, always work together. And the problem I have within the U.S. is I have here, above all places, this is the country I grew up, and Jim Fetzer and I, well, you're going to call it, we're all Marines here. And there's a disease that comes with this. I'm a fanatic pro-American at heart. And I am deeply ashamed of a huge number of Americans who I believe to be pathologically insane, to literally be sociopaths to the extent where I am periodically given alternative explanations that indicate that a lot of us just weren't supplied with the ability to understand and function as human beings. You know,
and they know that they've been they fed you aluminum. They give you aluminum and your soft drinks in aluminum cans, and they put the fluoride, the byproduct of aluminum, in your water. They know it reduces the intelligence levels, and if it didn't, you people out there that are listening to this now, that you've been listening to me for years, you're absolute proof of it. If you're not making a donation today, when I'm telling you I really need this now, I need to go pick up the Harley. I had to put it in the shop. It's done. I'm just waiting on the money to get it. I don't have transportation without it. I don't have the ability to reach. I did just get in my new business cards. I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up here. I'm bringing you this kind of information from Gordon Duff, from Jim Fetzer, even Stu Webb. He gets some things right. But he's a victim now. All of a sudden he's mad at me because I told him to shut the hell up. Let me do my show. And now he don't want to talk to me. I don't care. I don't need him. But I need you. I need you to listen. I need you to pass this information on. I need you to tell people about today's show with Gordon Duff on it. I need you to tell people, I've got other things we got to do too. I wasn't able to update my website today because I need to take the computer in. It was hacked. People came into the machine, destroyed one of my machines. I got to take it into the shop. I got to pick the Harley up. So we still got expenses. Hang on.
What's really going on in the news that mainstream media won't tell you. Are you frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. truthradio.com. The truth is out there. All you have to do.
Those of us who are concerned about the judiciary and to the Constitution are sometimes arguing with each other about the issue of sovereignty. We, the people, some say, are sovereign. I am sovereign. Individually, others say. And yet, there's another side to this coin. Are we under a nation of law or men? If men are sovereign, then I guess we need a king to be the sovereign person. But that's not the way we're structured. We're supposed to not be a nation under men. We're supposed to be a nation under law. What is the sovereign law? David Whitney has a magnificent lecture on this subject. It's less than an hour long. I'd love to send you a CD with his lecture. Please send for it. The Sovereignty CD. And write to us at Post Office Box 344, Nipomo, California 93444. That's P.O. Box 344, Nipomo, California 93444.
Centuries numbered 10 times 10 times. 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10.
You know, but I like that so much. I think I'll do the more of that. Let's listen to that.
Like the sky, just steering one for me. We stand by the ocean, and I see everything. Spiders of your motions can convince me. Yet in all your mighty glory, vanished from the sky. Just another story, misleads man-made life. They tell of how you fell from the sky.
All right, I had somebody say something about this. And I believe I've got this up on my website, the whole song. I wrote this for my Solomon novels, which I am now pitching to a few people, some agents. And I'm also pitching it to some of the CEOs of the cannabis-related companies. What I've said is, gentlemen, I've been waiting to meet you for 45 years. I wrote about men like you in my first novel, The Return of Solomon, while sitting in a Texas prison when I was threatened with a 99-year sentence for pot. When I got out, I helped start Normal and the paraphernalia industry. My book was too radical to get published even as science fiction. It was about a future time when Solomon appeared and got marijuana legalized and victimless crimes abolished in 46 states. It was my goal to see marijuana legal in all states. I think I can do that with your help today. I got out of the paraphernalia right before Tommy Chung got busted for buying a pipe factory. I started a magazine called Free American after witnessing the murder of 17 little children and their families in Waco, after being on the newsstands and bookstores for 10 years and broadcasting on shortwave radio. I was in an arranged motorcycle accident and lost everything. I got a business proposition. I've got these books for sale. I am updating the Solomon novels. Been carrying them around for 45 years. And I got to do a little bit of editing because my offices that I wrote about 45 years ago had IBM Selectric typewriters in it. Today I need to alter that and make them into computers. Now I've got to understand the need for this. Now this is Gordon Duff just told you. There are people within the CIA, within the Mossad. Another one of my friends, one of my people on here, says, "Well, how can he be for the Mossad? How can he like the Jews when they're behind the New World Order?" Well, they're not. Somebody asked me, "Well, Clay, you say the Rothschilds are Jewish, is that right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I thought they were German. I thought they were Germans. They were German Jews." Well, yes. And we've got just as much problem with the Christians. You got the Christians out there, hallelujah. And this is why Gordon says he's an atheist. I'm not. I believe God is alive and well and uses the internet today. Burning bushes are just kind of passé in the 21st century. The only burning bushes that I'm interested in are those marijuana plants. And folks, it's important because these billions of dollars come in illegally in this country. The real answer to this is to tear down that wall between us, put gates in, put tables in, let the Mexicans come up, bring all their marijuana, all their cocaine, all their heroin, all their poppies, whatever they want, lay it on the table, pay a duty. Make sure there's no poisons in it, have inspectors that check it all. Pay a duty, that's our source of income. Let the foreign products come in. Quit putting Americans in jail for using it. If you want to kill yourself with heroin, sit over in that corner. This is why I tell you that what's happened in Colorado, what's happened in Washington, what's going to happen in Alaska is the most positive signs in America right now. And there's even more to it than that. There is right now, they've got an Australian solar thermal plant that's produced the hottest and most pressurized steam ever using solar power, powerful enough to replace fossil fuels and drive the power plants of the time. David Koch, who would like to be president, probably doesn't have a chance in hell of making it because the control, nobody does. Nobody does. Not Gary Johnson, who was governor, probably not Jesse Ventura, who was governor. They won't allow them because they don't work for them, so they don't tell you about it, so they play them down. They do what they've done to me. In a sane society, I would be the head of the CEO of one of the largest. What Solomon was, what I wrote about. Solomon, in my novels, was one of the wealthiest men in the world. And the Christians thought he was the Antichrist. The Jews thought he was the Messiah. And his symbol was a six-pointed star. The star of Solomon's seal, not the Star of David. And Solomon was aware of occult knowledge, and the occult, by the way, that ain't black magic. That's not what it means. It means secrets. We have a race on this planet that has space travel. They walk among us. We actually have many races. They walk among us. And I wrote about that in my Lucifer Legends novels. So, folks, what I'm trying to tell you here is I've been ahead of things. I predicted the legalization of marijuana. Now you can smoke it in 20 states without going to prison. Texas, unfortunately, isn't one of them. And if I get your support, this movement will grow. I'm not. This ain't an antichrist movement. I'm telling you, God's alive and well, and He gave you free will, so you got the choice. Do you want to be good or evil? Smoking pot doesn't make you evil. They try to tell you that because they don't want you smoking it because it sets you free. Ask Kathy O'Brien what happened. All right, let's finish. Let's listen to some more Gordon Duff and Jim Fetzer.
So easy. I look back at the post 9/11 period, you know, and I won't say that I'm above being stupid. If anything, the only strength any of us are going to have is admitting mistakes we've made, admitting being fooled, admitting being human beings. Abilities, let's say, like thermite sniffers don't have. That's a private joke there that Jim Fetzer will get at. But,
hold on. I made a statement here. I'm going to do that first. I'm going to do, because not only did I write Solomon to be a movie, I wrote Lucifer to be a movie, and I want you to hear this. I'm actually a fairly talented guy here.
So high, so proud, so great, so free. Your feathers of fire light the sky, and your spirit is one with me. Your wings span the mighty ocean, your eyes see everything. The slightest of your motions can make the confidence ring. Yet in all your might and glory vanished from the skies, leaving just another story amidst millions of man-made lies. They tell me how you fell from the sky, your once proud beauty of flame, to vanish from your throne from high, leaving only a memory of your name. Rainbow blurs on mighty Phoenix, much more to the eyes of men. From the ancient days of Atlantis, in centuries numbered 10 times 10 times 10. Still of you, wise men whisper and say that you will come again. And once more, man will prosper beneath your rainbow wing. And on your mighty five-leg back, the
There shall stand that man. His voice will be for the words you lack, a guide for the race of men. Rainbow bird, mighty phoenix, come once more to the eyes of men. From the ancient days of Atlantis, centuries numbered 10 times, 10 times, 10. 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 Jim Fetcher.
But I absolutely, the planes don't crash into buildings and knock them down. It's just it's unimaginable. But I still, I do continual flights. I'm on, if you want to shoot me down, by the way, get me on 442 from Detroit to Frankfurt. Lufthansa, I will be sitting in first class and on the front seat on the right. If you want to, so that's where I'm there continually, and then you'll find me in the B terminal lounge, VIP at Frankfurt Airport. You're usually asleep in one of the bedrooms, or sitting in the shower trying to get my back to work again. And then looking at the 40-year-old Scotch they've got sitting there, which I no longer drink, but certainly love to handle the bottle stuff. But yeah, easy to find. And I would sit in Metro Airport, and the little lounge out in the terminal, and we would look around there for dangerous-looking Arabs that were going to get me. Now, with Fetzer, I'm 6'1", 240 pounds, and God knows, I'm 65 years old, but I still can carry my motorcycle out of the garage when I have to. And as Kevin Barrett so often
bikers are taking over.
At a 100-pounder with a box cutter. And I get on these planes to Frankfurt, mind you. I'm a big kid, former football player. And I'm on these planes full of Germans. And I stand up in the plane, and everyone else gets around me, and I come up to their chin. There are people on these planes who could carry me under their arm like I was hand baggage. The idea that somebody can get on a plane, or 3 people, or 4 people, and not simply be pounded to death by the passengers is unbelievable. So many of us, there are 40 million of us here in the United States with military training. There are millions and millions. I'm a combat veteran. I look for the opportunity to get my overweight ballpoint pen out and just jam it through somebody's eye, just out of residual anger from having bought too many things on eBay. I mean, that's how all of us are. We all deal with anger continually. All of this, but we all bought in on this because we all have this desire, like the classic paranoid, to live in a TV world, to be Jason Bourne, to live in something with more texture, with real danger. So this week, when I couldn't get on a plane because I'm recovering from a back injury, and Jim Dean went to Syria, and he's sitting in Homs being shelled today by Israelis, by the way, which, for anybody that's been so, and I've got Fetzer on here, who's an artillery officer. He knows how useless it is. I am so jealous of Jim Dean being over there because I love to sit out in the open and safely watch artillery land 5 miles away, or occasionally get shot at, because it's the only time I really know I'm alive. That's for any of us that are combat vets. And, yesterday I had a former head of CIA clandestine services call me. Gordon, you got a gig we can go on? I've been sitting around the house too long. This is someone over 70 and who had a stroke. And we need to get somewhere doing something. I just can't stay around the house. So many of us here that'll be pushing into our 70s, we want nothing more. Go ahead and tell me. What am I going to do? Die in an old people's home or rot from an Agent Orange cancer? Or like those 70,000 New Yorkers wait for the radiation poisoning from 9/11 to get it. Now, we've all got that, Jim, we've got this generation that we came from, the Beatles, Vietnam generation that supposedly was going to change everything. And we're going into the darkness quietly. We're going into the darkness, leaving a nightmare world for our kids, despite the fact that you and I spend our entire days beating people to death. We work very hard. And if anything I'm proud of, I'm proud of the number of people from the Department of Defense, the CIA, the Intelligence Agency, NSA, now called the Backward Firearms, the DEA, the FBI, many people from the FBI who have come forward to help us, from MI6, from the FSB, from the United Nations, so many other organizations who have stepped up, from the Mossad. Thank all of you guys who have stood up as part of us, who have put their pensions at risk, who don't care, who care more about their children and grandchildren than watching this planet turn into. And if you think they're just doing this to steal a few dollars or to make some money on oil, you're nuts. It's far, far more serious than that. And toward that end, I recommend you follow Preston James. Why would somebody do the kind of insanity that's being done? Push this world into crazed warfare, while the standard of living in the United States is plunging. Why would millions of Americans worry about having a decent living wage? Why are they so worried about illegal aliens when, frankly, we've got 6 kids here and a pile of grandchildren, and the worry, like everyone else, is keep extra houses so that kids will have somewhere to live when they lose their jobs. I'm going to be visiting one of my other friends today. They've got kids and grandchildren, and the kids, it takes all of the money any of us make to help them make their house payments when they lose their jobs, or to cover their legal expenses for one thing or another. All of the things that have the predators that are running generation after generation of America into permanent poverty, while 0.1% is garnering what wealth we have, wealth they will never be able to spend. It's not about wealth, it's about power, it's about slavery. And slavery isn't the answer. It's what they're doing after. We haven't had the other shoe dropped yet. There's another shoe to drop. They're just staging something here. Something very, very, very bad is coming. Why people are standing up now, and why it may go to something really serious where blood will flow. Now, I am not advocating that, but it is heading that way. Because there is a consequence coming. People are gaining the wealth and power, the control over press, the control over governments, the control over police forces, putting SWAT teams in every town, putting armored personnel carriers everywhere, because they are serving an agenda they have not yet been told of, one that is extremely dark, more dark than nearly any science fiction you've seen. At that point, I would stop talking again.
No, Gordon, you're on a roll and telling the truth, and Jim's going to be, I know that you want to stick around about an hour because you had stuff to do, but I want you to finish. And Jim's going to hang with me on this, and you can hang the whole 2 hours if you want, Gordon. I want you to keep telling the truth.
There's no finish here. And we're only presenting what is real for those who are capable of understanding it, and who may have. You only earn a right to know. Now, what I suggest that those of you who don't do this, go online, hook yourself up with Yahoo or whatever, and get a Hate Gordon Duff website. Please do that. I want you to stand up and be counted, because it has to be a list of assholes in the world somewhere. And make yourself counted as an asshole. Google will kick you right up to the top here. The Israelis will start sending you checks. And eventually, when you wake up some morning in a cage, like something out of Hansel and Gretel, and I'm telling you that's exactly where it's going. I won't be there with you, I can assure you, but you will have been warned. And it's exactly that serious. Why do you think they do it? What do you have that they want? What do you really have? Do you think people want your house, your savings, that car out in your driveway? They need to drag your kids out to Afghanistan to have some farmers blow them up. You think they want to tax your savings or overcharge you on gas, or to have evil Negroes take over your government like they have for the last 6 years and pollute your precious bodily fluids? That's the height of narcissism, if you think people care about you or what you have. Look at what our real asset is. You're standing on a real asset. It's here. It's oxygen. It's full of gold and iron and nickel. It's this planet. It's all that water. You know, that's all the value we have. All the rest of this stuff is like derivatives. Hot air. It's all hot air. Why do you think people think nothing of just pumping the oceans full of air full of radiation, or our food full of mercury, and feeding you heaven forbid GMO corn, which I think probably in the end will be found to be unacceptable to feed the rats. You know, you have a long history of just watching things go on here, and no one ever asks why. Why would people of such basic evil and malice, of lack of character, and we can start John McCain, you know, Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul. Oh, not him. Top of the list. Rand Paul, absolute top. Ted Cruz, Boehner, the entire Bush administration, and of world leaders. Not everybody's who they seem. You know, I go after Netanyahu a lot, and he's not a heartless individual. He's going to be last man standing. So Childenado, the same thing. The Koch brothers, oh yeah, evil beyond human measure. Others are not. Other people are here, and the more that some know nothing at all. You've been told more than you should ever know, and for those who will never understand this, it's best to walk away right now while you can. Don't listen to this. It's not going to help you. Many people just walk away. Others, we have so many people in the U.S. who believe they have sold the people of the world down the toilet, and that they're going to walk away free. And I'm not even saying walk away free from what, but you don't see it coming. You watch the news, you watch what's been going on since 2000 and before, and you don't see it coming. You think this is all there is, this petty squabbling over some oil and gas and a pipeline and Al-Qaeda and running drugs into Russia, and you think that's what this is about? That we would engage in all of this insanity, and of course that's all predicated on your belief that all scientific knowledge stops at the Middle Ages, because that's all that you're told about what exists. If you believe what science tells you is real, what you think is real physics, even physics, as you are told, if I have to, I'll prove it. I am capable of proving it. We have money invested in companies that are based on technologies using what I'll describe as non-ordinary physics. The first word I'll mention is Tesla, and it goes further. It goes much further. If you even believe physics and gravity exist as you think, that time exists as you think, that time and space exist as you think, and people exist as you think. You know, you have your religions as an alternative, and this is the one thing that Stu wanted to get into. You have your religions as an alternative explanation for the fact that you live in a world where the physics, we are told, are not functional. Relativity is not functional. As soon as we broke the speed of light at CERN, relativity, general relativity, died. Totally died. Tesla killed all ideas of space as we know it. We mentioned things like we had multiple universes. And I don't even have to go toward UFOs. You don't even want to begin to see where that is. We are so not alone. We're so not alone, you're lucky you've got somewhere to stand. It's way beyond any of that. And so you can piece all of it together with ghost stories, with conspiracy theories, with ancient aliens, and all of this, by the way, has more than a slight amount of vacuum. Some of it way much more. You can piece it all together. You can take phony reality, and then you can take the non-ordinary, well, I want to believe in this stuff because it explains all the things that seem right, and try to patch together things that will never fit. Or you can realize that reality, existence, has nothing to do with what you're told is. It's not what you believe in. Nobody believes any of what we're going to believe, because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right, and it doesn't work. None of it works. The first time you had deja vu in your life, those of you who have such things, you knew that everything you were told was wrong. There cannot be deja vu without an absence of linear time. Jim, should I stop? Jim's still on.
No, Gordon, don't stop. Jim, you still with us?
Oh, absolutely. I've been fascinated by this whole thing. It's been stunning.
This is. Don't stop, Gordon. We'll have a break here in a few minutes.
Jim, I'm walking it to the edge of what, and what I say is I am only a representative of others. I am not in charge of anything, but I do speak for others, and I won't even say others of authority, but whatever authority is, I don't care. We're all holding out with our fingernails here anyway. As much as anybody here hopes for. It's just like the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambit, to die in your sleep. That's what all of you are out there doing.
Hold the thought. We've got to go to break. This is the Veterans Today News Reports. I'm your host, Stu Webb. My guest is Gordon Duff, U.S. Intelligence Officer, Editor, Veterans Today, and Professor James Fetzer. Hold on. We'll be right back. And we're back, folks, and this is the Veterans Today News Reports. I'm your host, Stu Webb. It's June the 4th, 2014, and my two special guests, Gordon Duff, Editor, Veterans Today, and Professor James Fetzer, also an editor on Veterans Today. And I'm just going to turn the mic back over to you, Gordon. Uncle Gordy, we should call you now.
Yeah, it's I've got more than a couple of dictators. Things that you warned about here. I'm putting things out there that are, this probably should be saved and discerned by those of you that can't. And then we want to look at those who will analyze this and look to find things wrong with it. It's very careful that we find those that attack us, because we have to learn to recognize the threats around us. And toward that end, we probably have to institute consequences. I'm not a militia guy. Although I forbid I have more guns than some armies do. I build and collect. I collect military weapons. I don't even shoot anymore. I can't see. But it's not going to be about that. There's no one coming to your door to get your guns. There's no anybody to shoot at. there are those of us that say, the warning, I give warnings to them. I've been placed in a position, and heaven only, I've always suspected such, and we all should suspect things. When people give you information, when people hand you, there is no free lunch. Veterans Today has ended up over a period of years to have, and it's not a perfect organization, and I don't tell people what to write, I don't agree with everyone, it's a free marketplace of ideas, but it is a collection. Right now it has the top writing team on this planet. It has the brightest people in the world. No one will argue with that. We're there. We have whatever freedom there is there. There is no other place to go. And it's because it's the last man standing, and it's the last man standing because, and I'll say, I have made this sacrifices to see to it that people at Veterans Day are protected. I cut deals to make sure that people are protected. And behind Veterans Today, we have defense corporations, we've got intelligence groups, we have some very, very dangerous people, very angry people, people of divergent beliefs. Some, fanatically pro-Israeli. So certainly people within the U.S. Nuclear Command, the intelligence agency, the special operations groups we are hand in hand with. Major defense contracting firms. But behind this, there's this basic feeling. We have a little group of hitters in there, senior intelligence people. I'm one of those people. And how do you get to be very senior? It's a real human. If you don't die, you get to be real senior. It's kind of how it works. And we run a little charismatic club there. What we try to have is heart. We try to see ourselves, we try to retain our humor, we try to retain focus, what matters, take care of our families, our friends, care about the United States as we can. And realize that the world is not about the United States, it's about all of us. When I look at my family, I live in a very collective life. Anything with people around the world, I've spent years traveling the world, making friends. I keep all of them. And we all work together all of the time. And this is why, and as we get older, we're beginning to lose people. But it's what we have. We are creating a community. Veterans Today is a community, and it includes readers, and it includes listeners out here. And I have listeners. I have people commenting at Veterans Today that I tell you are brighter than any of them, that know more than any of them. We have people coming forward and signing up because they see people of life, but all we have is who any of them are. I had Chris Boland. I was such a good thing with Chris Boland, but excuse me being an Israeli info officer. Oh my God. The insanity of this, and I'm always good-looking guy, great investigative reporter, but people are vulnerable. I don't know, and I can't label everybody, you're an agent of this or whatever, because I watch so many around us, so many people around Jim and I over the years. Now, Jim, you've been involved in 9/11 Truth forever. How many of the people you've dealt with have just turned out to have some kind of rotten core at the middle of them here? And you like everybody, pretty much.
Gordon, I wish I could say we're a relatively modest percent, but I'm afraid it's around 75.
I might even go higher than this. It's one of those where it's sitting around the house here with Carol, and I was just, this is where my office is the servant's quarters in my house. I put relegated there off the kitchen and laundry room. And Jim and I, a few months ago, we're sitting there in the house, and I'm just going through this criteria for evaluating people. Why do people do the things we do? Now, I've got Stu on here, whose daughter married into a massive organized crime family, and Stu, rather than being a paranoid nut, people really try to kill Stu. and Stu will just beat his head against the wall forever. Now, and Stu's, as far as I think how he handles himself on things, I have to work with Stu sometimes. You know, Micah Harris and I were talking yesterday about putting a lid on Stu, and Stu is going after Alex Jones, you know. And then, of course, today, Alex Jones exposes himself in the most horrific way, and I call up Mike Harris and say, you know, yesterday we were talking about putting a lid on Stu. Now he's going to have to put a lid on us. The point being, when you're no longer able to look at yourself and correct what you do, you have stopped, you died. You know,
I've learned that from you, Gordon. I've learned that. Learned a lot. I'm calling you Uncle Gordon now.
I gotta say, Gordon, the story on InfoWars, which was about Snowden, who was saying that if only the FBI and the CIA had better communications, they would have known the terrorists were going to attack 9/11 and it could have been avoided. That very much disturbed me. I mean, not only about Alex Jones.
Oh my God, yeah. Why didn't somebody tell the FBI that they were part of the plot? Because we know they were. You know?
Yes.
If only the FBI and CIA had admitted that they were plotting with the Mossad to blow up the World Trade Center and collapse the world economic system in conjunction with the Bush family and the secret shadow government, then they would have done something about it. Why did he just say that? You know? These people are pathologically insane. And they send this stuff out there. I mean, who do they expect is going to be reading this? Are they thinking that all of the people that the mentally disturbed groups that have been Fox News and Hannity adherents somehow are going to rush over and buy in a bunch of phony cancer cures and poisonous medicines and send their money in so that the Mossad can have a self-financing psychological warfare operation against the United States? Let's just call it what it is. But toward that end, I think that Alex Jones is doing a service because it's like he's a giant vacuum cleaner sucking all of the rotted scum out of the United States, putting them in one area where we can identify them, and maybe we could just get bulldozers. The Israelis are so good at bulldozing people, and Caterpillar supplies them with them. We could bulldoze them all into the Pacific Ocean. You know, it's how many Alex Jones listeners belong at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean? Pretty much all of them.
It's very exciting, Gordon. In fact, I have felt that Edward Snowden did so much good by exposing the massive NSA surveillance, but these remarks about 9/11 were utterly naive and clearly misleading. I mean, do you think he doesn't know better?
Now, Jim, this is what, if you remember, and just so you know this, I'm a really bad-tempered person. And both Stu and Harris and everybody else will tell you that I will periodically just call people up and I'm having a caffeine moment and scream at people. You know, it's post-traumatic stress. It's an excuse. I come from a German family. I grew up bad. You know, but what I say is, Jim, about this, the NSA gets between $18 and $30 billion a year. Congress, the NDAA and FISA and other laws, plus protocols we are not told, have long authorized them and given them the capability of gathering all information in the world. Toward that end, they have built massive intelligence fusion centers, by the way, which intelligence fusion centers is one of the things that I do for a living. I'm in the surveillance business. I do this. I spy on people. It's my job, too. I actually, however, discuss the ethics of information when we give this out and how to discern what a threat is and what isn't. The NSA apparently doesn't. But yes, the nature of survival is what requires ISR, we call it. I run one of the largest private ISR organization in the world. I run my own version of the NSA. We run 4 spy satellites. We have intelligence. I control the patents. The patents the NSA uses for processing their intelligence surveillance come from one of our subsidiaries. We're the ones that created the algorithms that they use for processing intelligence. I know everything about what they do. I'm aware of it. The point is, so did everyone. The fact that the NSA, and I can assure you this, they are incapable of taking the massive information they have and processing it to actionable intelligence, meaning they are no threat. They don't know how to do it. The more information they collect, the less they can do with it. They can do nothing with it, and there is no history of them doing anything with it. That's the point. Spying on world leaders, absolutely. That's their job. I pray for them to do that. I want them to listen to everything. The problem being is if you had vital information to the security of the United States, who the hell would you give it to? Because nobody in Washington cares. There's nobody there. Who cares what they do? Because nobody was going to do anything with it. You could take a confirmed criminal case against the master criminal and give it to the FBI and then walk away from it. They do it all day, every day. Why do you think we had to crash in 2000, 2007, 2008? How do you think the Federal Reserve Bank of New York under Timothy Geithner was able to steal $3.5 trillion US dollars? How do you think Wall Street was able to create $2.55 quadrillion? And we're saving enough money to buy the sun and sell it off as solar heat. I think we actually created enough money to buy one or two universes. There is no movable wealth that represents this. We're living in a country now where Al-Qaeda is considered part of NATO. I'm surprised that Al-Qaeda doesn't have a seat in NATO where the PLO has a seat at the United Nations. Al-Qaeda is a NATO organization now, officially. I'm thinking of bringing Osama bin Laden back alive.
Well, he went
I hear a rumor.
Mainstream media.
I hear a rumor that his mother was smuggled to Texas, and he was born there while staying with the Bush family, and that means that bin Laden can run for president, doesn't it? I mean, that's the kind of stuff we get. I believe Alex Jones told me that. Now, this is are we getting out of hand yet? Are we having fun yet?
No, Gordon, you're telling the truth. We can't leave out the others. I mean, we got Christopher Bowen, and we have Alex Jones and Snow.
Bowen, and for those of you who don't understand the Bowen thing, Bowen, when I released documents received from Russian intelligence on the nuclear weapons used on 9/11, specifics about where they came from and how they were built, including documents covering the physics of it, and the names of people involved, some of whom are still around and who have come forward, which I have left out for that reason. You know, when I did that, Bowen decided to try a smear campaign against me, and then toward that end, Veterans Today's on-staff junkyard dog, and who is that right now? Dr. James Fetzer. Absolutely, oh my heavens, just crushed the living life out of Chris Bowen. Now, you know, I haven't stayed in contact with Bowen. I've got autographed copies of his books. He's been a courteous sort of guy. Nanothermite, the idea, there's this idea that some kind of magic dust, that a non-existent factory created 143,000 tons of a non-existent substance, which was created in microscopic quantities on the International Space Station, and I have the plans for the mechanism to do this. Okay, because they came to me to sell this to me as a propellant. All I had to do was find a zero-G lab. Zero-G, that means no gravity, one built in outer space. Well, if anybody's got proof that somebody built 143,000 tons of nanothermite in outer space, 6-micron aluminum and nitrogen molecules, transported those to Earth somehow magically, bilocated them, loaded them in the back of 2 trucks driven by Israeli art students, and how do you get 70,000 tons of nano thermite in the back of a Ford Econoline van? And I'll tell you this, stacked very carefully. and then they carry it, and how many floors of the World Trade Center were this entirely filled? I mean, entirely, just stacked entirely. What did you do? Tell them it was campaign leaflets for Bloomberg or whatever? Well, how many did you print? 200 trillion, of course. One for everybody in New York. No, there aren't that many people in New York. Oops, we made a mistake. The insanity of these people. So occasionally, we take we have little tiny targets, and Jones. See what Jones has done. Jones has done really good work in it. I mean, anybody that's on TV or radio any length of time, I mean, the stories of hundreds of thousands of Chinese sneaking around the U.S. or the Russian armies, walking up the Potomac every day, like nobody remembers that he pulls all this stuff out of where. I mean, this is kind of fine, and people are. It's a free market of ideas, and you know what? If we're going to defend free speech, heaven forbid, defend his right to talk to the crazy people and make as much money as he can. Everybody else does it, and I really believe in that. And then at times, I mean, when General Hamid Dahl needed somewhere to talk about 9/11, Alex Jones let him do it. And I give him credit for that. When I look at this Bundy thing going on, oh my heavens, the stuff that, there is insanity. What we're seeing here recently, and this is just on the micro end, because we had a last hour where we covered some broad things which need to be separated out and dealt with, because I put things out there of lasting value. And by saying they're lasting value, they did not originate with me. I do not create things of lasting value. I'm one of you guys. Not any different at all. I'm one of the kids here. Make mistakes, screw up stuff. That's just me. I'm uniquely imperfect. Not as bad as Stuart Fetzer by any means, but uniquely imperfect. But collectively, there are enough of us that we're a power. The question was, well, how are we going to fix it? We're going to go to the election, we're going to elect another Tea Party. I mean, oh my God, how's that worked out for you? We've got warmongering nutso fanatics. Get rid of all of them. Well, what can we do within the government? I look at what happened in the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs. I can go off on a little minor tangent here, probably. I was in Africa, and there's the case when people who do when I travel, I usually travel with an armored car and whatever. It's not a big deal. It's very common. Plus, it employs people in third world countries. So when you're like, and I'm like a D-level celeb, but when I go somewhere, I get picked up off a plane. I don't go through customs. I get picked up in an armored vehicle. I have lots and lots of guards, and it's done simply because it employs lots of people. And that's why we do that. We get the cars, we get the guards. I have 5 or 6 cars. I have police in front and back, because it pays people and it's goodwill. We don't do it because nobody cares you're running through traffic lights in Abuja, But it's just the way things are done. Anyway, I ended up with an injury. I'm an old ex-football player. I get beaten up. Minor VA story here. In early May, I went to the VA. I had a minor injury. I know I had a number of trips to take. I'm really not sitting down properly. I'm actually laying down right now talking to you with a fair amount of anti-inflammatories and steroids running right now. But we discovered just magically a few weeks ago that the VA was utterly corrupt. Now, for a decade, Veterans Today has not only been proving it, but we've taken the VA to federal court, proven that they've been involved with organized crime and the theft of land. We have repeatedly taken criminal cases to the FBI showing that specific offices of the Department of Veterans Affairs have been involved in massive benefits fraud, have been involved in defrauding hospitals on payments to organized crime for non-existent goods and services they've purchased. We have found evidence that more than 200 veterans have been arrested and incarcerated for whistleblowing on the VA and have been arrested at the behest of the VA Inspector General, which is not a law enforcement organization, nor does it have the ability or right by its mandate to Congress to prosecute veterans or work to have veterans silenced or prosecuted. We have found that the VA runs a private police force that intimidates and follows veterans, that has worked with criminal elements to have veterans assaulted, that follows people around, that does wiretapping, that has borrowed surveillance vans from the NSA, the VA police have. We have filmed them doing this. That would be Robert Rosebach's work. We have documented this significantly. We have filed charges against them. We have beaten them in court with the ACLU. We have taken them in front of federal prosecutors and had their arrests of our 80-plus-year-old demonstrators overturned. My own case here, I have a minor back injury, and I will deal with this. And after all of the scandals with the VA, and figuring that I run one of the news services for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and a 2.85 million member Veterans Association, mind you, I was told today that I had a 60-day wait to start physical therapy on what should be considered a debilitating injury.
All right, I'm going to call it a week. And folks, if you've enjoyed today's show, go to freeamerican.com and click on the donate button and make a donation. I've got to go pick up my Harley. I still need a few donations. I need a little bit of more money to be able to get it out of the shop. I've got a ride to go get it. I just need a little bit more money to pay Harley Davidson, and I'll have a bike that'll last me for another 50,000 miles. This is important. I'm asking your help here now. This is the kind of information I'm getting out, and everything he's told you today, I've backed up. Now, I point the finger at the Jews probably a little bit more, but I've also told you I don't care who your grandmother slept with. I don't care what your religion is. I care about what you do today. If you care about this country, you want to keep this information going, make a donation today. If you care about truth, if you care about justice, now you've just heard Gordon Duff, and he's told you his credentials. He feels the same way as I do. He's got friends that are Jewish. I financed Jack Harrer, who was Jewish, while he wrote Emperor Wears No Clothes. Again, important information. I've exposed the Mossad with drug dealing, and they've tried to kill me over exposing a 9/11. Now, folks, it's really time for all of us to get together, and you need to back the right people. Quit donating to these politicians. You need to shut out the Republican and Democratic parties, because you got the fascists and the communists controlling your elections and using your money to set up these prison camps. This is happening now. It's real. I'm giving you the truth, and I've been giving you the truth for a long time. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. I'll be watching my email to see those donations come in. Thank you.